Good day everyone, I am Marjorie C. Ayaw and my report is all about the teacher's rights, duties, and responsibilities, the Education Act of 1982 or the Batas Pambansa 232. So Batas Pambansa bilang 232 September 11, 1982. So it is an act providing for the establishment and maintenance of an integrated system of education. Be it enacted by the Batasang Pambansa in session assembled. So first, the general provision. Chapter 1, the preliminary matters. So Section 1, this is the title. This act shall be known as the Education Act of 1982. Section 2, coverage. This act shall apply to and govern both formal and non-formal system in public and private schools in all levels of the entire educational system. Chapter 2, the Declaration of Basic States, Policy, and Objectives. So in Section 3, it is the Declaration of Basic Policy. It is the policy of the state to establish and maintain a complete, adequate, and integrated system of education relevant to the goals of national development. Toward this end, the government shall ensure, within the context of a free and democratic system, maximum contribution of the educational system to the attainment of the following national developmental goals. First goal is to achieve and maintain an accelerating rate of economic development and social progress. Second is to assure the maximum participation of all the people in the attainment and enjoyment of the benefits of such growth. And lastly, to achieve and strengthen national unity and consciousness and preserve, develop, and promote desirable cultural, moral, and spiritual values in a changing world. So the state shall promote the right of every individual to relevant quality education regardless of sex, age, creed, socioeconomic status, physical and mental conditions, racial or ethnic origin, political or other affiliation. So the state shall therefore promote and maintain equality of access to education as well as the enjoyment of the benefits of education by all its citizens. The state shall promote the right of the nation's cultural communities in the exercise of their right to develop themselves within the context of their cultures, costumes, traditions, interests, and beliefs, and recognizes education as an instrument for their maximum participation in national development and in ensuring their involvement in achieving national unity. Section 4, the Declaration of Objectives. So the educational system aims to: first, provide for a broad general education that will assist each individual in the peculiar ecology of his own society. 2. Attain his potential as a human being, enhance the range and quality of individual and group participation in the basic functions of society, and acquire the essential educational foundation of his development into a productive and versatile citizen. Second, train the nation's manpower in the middle-level skills required for national development. Third, develop the professions that will provide leadership for the nation in the advancement of knowledge for improving the quality of human life, and respond effectively to changing needs and conditions of the nation through a system of educational planning and evaluation. Towards the realization of these objectives and pursuant to the Constitution, all educational institutions shall aim to inculcate love of country, teach the duties of citizenship, and develop moral character, personal discipline, and scientific, technological, and vocational efficiency. So furthermore, the educational system shall reach out to educationally deprived communities in order to give meaningful reality to their membership in the national society, to enrich their civic participation in the community and national life, and to unify all Filipinos into a free and just nation. Next is the educational community. Chapter 1, the preliminary provisions. So, Section 5, the declaration of policy and objectives. It is likewise declared government policy to foster at all times a spirit of shared purposes and cooperation among the members and elements of the educational community and between the community and other sectors of society, in the realization that only in such an atmosphere can the true goals and objectives of education be fulfilled. So, moreover, the state shall aid and support the natural right and duty of parents in the rearing of the youth through the educational system, promote and safeguard the welfare and interests of the students by defining their rights and obligations, according them privileges, and encouraging the establishment of sound relationships between them and the other members of the school community, promote the social and economic status of all school personnel, uphold their rights, define their obligations, and improve their living and working conditions and career prospects. Extend support to promote the valuability of those institutions through which parents, students, and school personnel seek to attain their educational goals. Section 6, Definition and Coverage. Educational community refers to those persons or groups of persons as such or associated in institutions involved in organized teaching and learning systems. So the members and elements of the educational community are parents or guardians or the head of the institution or foster home which has custody of the pupil or student. Next, students or those enrolled in and who regularly attend an educational institution of secondary or higher level or a person engaged in formal study. Pupils are those who regularly attend a school of elementary level under the supervision and tutelage of a teacher. School personnel are all persons working for an educational institution which includes the following: teaching or academic staff, or all persons engaged in actual teaching and or research assignments, either on full-time or part-time basis in all levels of the educational system. School administrators, or all persons occupying policy implementing positions having to do with the functions of the school in all levels. Academic non-teaching personnel, or those persons holding some academic qualifications and performing academic functions directly supportive of teaching, such as registrars, librarians, guidance counselors, researchers, research assistant, research aides, and similar staff. Then the last is the non-academic personnel, or all other school personnel not falling under the definition and coverage of teaching and academic staff, school administrators, and academic non-teaching personnel. Then the schools or institutions recognized by the state which undertake educational operation. Section 7, the community participation. Every educational institution shall provide for the establishment of appropriate bodies through which the members of the educational community may discuss relevant issues and communicate information and suggestions for assistance and support of the school and for the promotion of their common interest. So representatives from each subgroup of the educational community shall sit and participate in these bodies, the rules and procedures of which must be approved by them and duly published. Chapter 2, Rights. So Section 8, Rights of Parents. In addition to other rights under existing laws, all parents who have children enrolled in a school shall have the following rights. First, the right to organize by themselves and or with teachers for the purpose of providing a forum for the discussion of matters relating to the total school program and for ensuring the full cooperation of parents and teachers in the formulation and efficient implementation of such programs. Second, the right to access to any official record directly relating to the children who are under their parental responsibility. Section 9. Rights of students in school. In addition to other rights and subject to the limitations prescribed by law and regulations, students and pupils in all schools shall enjoy the following rights. First, the right to receive, primarily through competent instruction, relevant quality education in line with national goals and conducive to their full development as persons with human dignity. Second, the right to freely choose their field of study, subject to existing curricula, and to continue their course therein up to graduation, except in cases of academic deficiency or violation of disciplinary regulations. Third, the right to school guidance and counseling services for making decisions and selecting the alternatives in fields of work suited to his potentialities. Fourth, the right of access to his own school records, the confidentiality of which the school shall maintain and preserve. Fifth, the right to the issuance of official certificates, diplomas, transcript of records, grades, transfer credentials, and other similar documents within 30 days from request. Sixth, the right to publish a student newspaper and similar publications, as well as the right to invite resource persons during assemblies, symposia, and other activities of similar nature. Seventh, the right to free expression of opinions and suggestions and to effective channels of communication with appropriate academic and administrative bodies of the school or institution. 8. The right to form, establish, join, and participate in organizations and societies recognized by the school to foster their intellectual, cultural, spiritual, and physical growth and development, or to form, establish, join, and maintain organizations and societies for purposes not contrary to law. And the last one, the right to be free from involuntary contributions except those approved by their own organizations or societies. Section 10. Rights of all school personnel. So in addition to other rights provided for the law, the following rights shall be enjoyed by all school personnel. First, the right to free expression of opinion and suggestions and to effective channels of communication with appropriate academic and administrative bodies of the school or institution. Second, the right to be provided with free legal service by the appropriate government office in the case of public school personnel and through the school authorities concerned in the case of private school personnel when charged in an administrative, civil, and or criminal proceedings by parties other than the school or regulatory authorities concerned for actions committed directly in the lawful discharge of professional duties and or in defense of school policies. Third, the right to establish, join, and maintain labor organizations and or professional and self-regulating organizations of their choice to promote their welfare and defend their interest. Fourth, the right to be free from involuntary contributions except those imposed by their own organizations. Section 11. Special rights and or privileges of teaching or academic staff. So further to the rights mentioned in the preceding section, every member of the teaching or academic staff shall enjoy the following rights and or privileges. The right to be free from compulsory assignments not related to their duties as defined in their appointments or employment contracts, unless compensated, therefore, conformably to existing law. Second, the right to intellectual property consistent with applicable laws. Third, teachers shall be deemed persons in authority when in the discharge of lawful duties and responsibilities, and shall therefore be accorded due respect and protection. Fourth, teachers shall be accorded the opportunity to choose alternative career lines either in school administration, in classroom teaching, or others for purposes of career advancement. Section 12. Special rights of school administrators. So school administrators shall, in accordance with existing laws, regulations, and policies of the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports, be accorded sufficient administrative discretion necessary for the efficient and effective performance of their functions. School administrators shall be deemed person in authority while in the discharge of lawful duties and responsibilities, and shall therefore be accorded due respect and protections. So Section 13, Rights of Schools. In addition to other rights provided by law, schools shall enjoy the following. First, the right of their government boards or lawful authorities to provide for the proper governance of the school and to adopt and enforce administrative or management systems. Second, the right for institutions of higher learning to determine on academic grounds who shall be admitted to study, who may teach, and what shall be the subject of the study and research. So, let's go on to Chapter 3, Duties and Obligations. So, Section 14 is the duties of parents. In addition to those provided for under existing laws, all parents shall have the following duties and obligations. First, parents, individually or collectively, through the school systems, shall help carry out the educational objectives in accordance with national goals. Second, parents shall be obliged to enable their children to obtain elementary education and shall strive to enable them to obtain secondary and higher education in the pursuance of the right formation of the youth. Third, parents shall cooperate with the school in the implementation of the school program, curricular and co-curricular. Next, Section 15, Duties and Responsibilities of Students. In addition to those provided for under existing laws, every student shall exert his utmost to develop his potentialities for service, particularly by undergoing an education suited to his abilities, in order that he may become an asset to his family and to society. Second, uphold the academic integrity of the school, endeavor to achieve academic excellence, and abide by the rules and regulation governing his academic responsibilities and moral integrity. Third, promote and maintain the peace and tranquility of the school by observing the rules of discipline and by exerting efforts to attain harmonious relationship with fellow students, the teaching and academic staff, and other school personnel. Fourth, participate actively in civic affairs and in the promotion of the general welfare, particularly in the social, economic, and cultural development of his community and in the attainment of a just, compassionate, and orderly society. Fifth, exercise his rights responsibly in the knowledge that he is answerable for any infringement or violation of the public welfare and of the right of others. Section 13. The teacher's obligations. So every teacher shall first perform his duties to the school by discharging his responsibilities in accordance with the philosophy, goals, and objectives of the school. Second, be accountable for the efficient and effective attainment of specified learning objectives in pursuance of national development goals within the limit of available school resources. Third, render regular reports on performance of each student and the latter's parents or guardians with specific suggestions for improvement. Fourth, assume the responsibility to maintain and sustain his personal growth and advancement and maintain professionalism in his behavior at all times. Fifth, refrain from making deductions in students' scholastic ratings for acts that are clearly not manifestations of poor scholarship. And then the last one, participate as an agent of constructive social, economic, moral, intellectual, cultural, and politic change in his schools and the community within the context of national policies. And Section 17, School Administrators' Obligations. So every school administrator shall perform his duties to the school by discharging his responsibilities in accordance with the philosophy, goals, and objectives of the school. Second, be accountable for the efficient and effective administration and management of the school. Next, develop and maintain a healthy school atmosphere conducive to the promotions and preservation of academic freedom and effective teaching and learning, and to harmonious and progressive school personal relationship. Fourth, assume and maintain professional behavior in his work and in dealing with students, teachers, academic, non-teaching personnel, administrative staff, and parents or guardian. Fifth, render adequate reports to teaching, academic, non-teaching personnel, and non-academic staff on their actual performance in relation to their expected performance and counsel them on ways of improving the same. Sixth, observe due process, fairness, promptness, privacy, constructiveness, and consistency in disciplining his teacher and other personnel. Seventh, maintain adequate records and submit required reports to the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports. Section 18. Obligations of academic non-teaching personnel. Academic non-teaching personnel shall improve himself professionally by keeping abreast of the latest trends and techniques in his professions. Second, assume, promote, and maintain a professional attitude toward his work, students, teachers, administrators, and administrative staff, and relate with them in a supportive and cordial manner. Then the last one is to promote and maintain an atmosphere conducive to service and learning. Next is the educational system. So Chapter 1, Formal Education. Section 19, Declaration of Policy. The state recognizes that formal education or the school system is society's primary learning system and therefore the main instrument for the achievement of the country's educational goals and objectives. So, Section 20, Definition. Formal education refers to the hierarchically structured and chronologically graded learning organized and provided by the formal school system and for which certification is required in order for the learner to progress through the grades or move to higher levels. So formal education shall correspond to the following levels. First, elementary education. The first stage of compulsory formal education primarily concerned with providing basic education and usually corresponding to 6 or 7 grades, including preschool programs. Next, secondary education. The stage of formal education following the elementary level concerned primarily with continuing basic education and expanding it to include the learning of employable gainful skills, usually corresponding to 4 years of high school. Then the tertiary education. Post-secondary schooling is higher education leading to a degree in a specific profession or discipline. Section 21. Objectives of elementary education. The objectives of elementary education are to provide the knowledge and develop the skills, attitude, and values essential to personal development and necessary for living in and contributing to a developing and changing social milieu. Second, to provide learning experiences which increase the child's awareness of and responsiveness to the changes in and just demands of society and to prepare him for constructive and effective involvement. Third, to promote and intensify the child's knowledge of, identification with, and love for the nation and the people to which he belongs, and to promote work experiences which develop the child's orientation to the world of work and creativity and prepare himself to engage in honest and gainful work. Section 22. Objective of secondary education. So the objectives of secondary education are to continue to promote the objectives of elementary education and to discover and enhance the different aptitude and interests of the student so as to equip him with skills for productive endeavor and or prepare him for tertiary schooling. Section 23. Objectives of tertiary education. The objectives of tertiary education are to provide a general education program that will promote national identity, cultural consciousness, moral integrity, and spiritual vigor. So, second, to train the nation's manpower in the skills required for national development. Third, to develop the professions that will provide leadership for the nation. And fourth, to advance knowledge through research work and apply new knowledge for improving the quality of human life and responding effectively to changing societal needs and conditions. Chapter 2. Non-formal education and specialized educational services. So Section 24, Specialized Educational Service, the state further recognizes its responsibility to provide, within the context of the formal education system, services to meet special needs of certain clientele. These specific types, which shall be guided by the basic policies of the state embodied in the general provision of this act, include work education or practical arts as a program of basic education which aims to develop the right attitude towards work, and technical vocational education, post-secondary but non-degree programs leading to 1, 2, or 3-year certificates in preparation for a group of middle-level occupations. Second, special education. The education of persons who are physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, or culturally different from the so-called normal individuals that they require modification of school practices or services to develop them to their maximum capacity. And the non-formal education. Any organized school-based educational activities undertaken by the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports and other agencies aimed at attaining specific learning objectives for a particular clientele, especially the illiterates and the out-of-school youth and adults, distinct from the outside the regular offerings of the formal school system. So the objective of non-formal education are as follows. First, to eradicate illiteracy and raise the level of functional literacy of the population. Next, to provide unemployed and underemployed youth and adults with appropriate vocational technical skills to enable them to become more productive and effective citizens, and lastly, to develop among the clientele of non-formal education proper values and attitudes necessary for personal, community, and national development. Chapter 3, Establishment of Schools. So, Section 25, Establishment of Schools. All schools shall be established in accordance with law. The establishment of new national schools and the conversion of existing schools from elementary to national secondary schools, or from secondary to national secondary or tertiary schools, shall be by law, provided that any private school proposed to be established must incorporate as a non-stock educational corporation in accordance with the provisions of the Corporation Code of the Philippines. So these requirements to incorporate may be waived in the case of family-administered preschool institutions. Government assistance to such schools for educational programs shall be used exclusively for that purpose. Section 26. Definition of terms. The terms used in this chapter are deemed as followed. So, schools are duly established institutions of learning or educational institution. Public schools are educational institutions established and administered by the government. Private schools are educational institutions maintained and administered by private individuals or groups. Section 27, Recognition of Schools. The educational operation of schools shall be subject to the prior authorizations of the government and shall be effected by recognition. In the case of government-operated schools, whether local, regional, or national, recognition of educational programs and or operations shall be deemed granted simultaneously with establishment. In all other cases, the rules and regulations governing recognition shall be prescribed and enforced by the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports, defining therein who are qualified to apply, providing for a permit system, stating the condition for the grant of recognition and for its cancellation and withdrawal, and providing for related matters. Section 28. Effective of recognition. Punishable violations. The issuance of a certificate of recognition to a school shall have the following effects. So, first, it transforms the temporary permit to a permanent authority to operate. It entitles the school or college to give the students who have completed the course for which recognition is granted a certificate, title, or diploma, and it shall entitle the students who have graduated from said recognized course or courses to all the benefits and privileges enjoyed by graduates in similar courses of studies in all schools recognized by the government. Operation of schools and educational program without authorization and or operation thereof in violation of the terms of recognition hereby declared punishable violation subject to the penalties provided in this Act. Section 29. Voluntary Accreditation. The Ministry shall encourage programs of voluntary accreditation for institutions which desire to meet standards of quality over and above the minimum required for state recognition. Chapter 4. Internal Organization of School. So, Section 30, Organization of Schools. Each school shall establish such internal organization as will best enable it to carry out its academic and administrative function subject to limitations provided by law. Each school shall establish such arrangement for the peaceful settlement of disputes between or among the members of the educational community. Section 31. The Governing Board. Every government college or university established as a tertiary institution and every private school shall have a governing board pursuant to its charter or to the Corporation Code of the Philippines as the case may be. Section 32, the personnel transactions. The terms and conditions of employment of personnel in government schools shall be governed by the civil services, budgetary, and compensation laws and rules. In private school, dispute arising from employer-employee relations shall fall under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Labor and Employment as provided for by law and regulation, provided that in view of the special employment status of the teaching and academic non-teaching personnel, under special rules in the advancement of knowledge, standards set of promulgated jointly by the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports and by the Ministry of Labor and Employment shall be applied by the Ministry of Labor and Employment, provided further that every private school shall establish and implement an appropriate system within the school for the prompt and orderly settlement of personal disputes at the school level subject to the provisions of Article 262 and 263 of the Labor Code. Chapter 5, the School Finance and Assistance. Section 33, the Declaration of Policy. It is hereby declared to be the policy of the state that the national government shall contribute to the financial support of educational program pursuant to the goals of education as declared in the Constitution toward this end. The government shall adopt measures to broaden access to education through financial assistance and other forms of incentives to schools, teachers, pupils, and students, and encourage and stimulate private support to education through inter alia, fiscal, and other assistant measures. A. Funding of public schools. So, Section 34, National Funds. Public schools shall continue to be founded primarily from national funds, provided that local government shall be encouraged to assume operation of local public schools on the basis of national fund participation and adequate revenue sources which may be assigned by the national government for the purpose. Section 35, Financial Aid and Assistance to Public Secondary Schools. The national government shall extend financial aid and assistance to public secondary schools established and maintained by local governments, including barangay high schools. Section 36, Share of local governments. So provinces, cities, and municipalities and barangays shall appropriate funds in their annual budgets for the operation and maintenance of public secondary schools on the basis of national fund participations. Section 37, the Special Education Fund. The proceeds of the Special Education Fund accruing to local government shall be used exclusively for the purposes enumerated in Section 1 of Public Act Number 5447 and in accordance with rules and regulations issued by the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports and the Ministry of the Budget. Said proceeds shall be considered a local fund and shall be subject to Presidential Decree Number 477, Presidential Decree Number 1375, and other applicable local budget laws and regulations. So Section 38, Tuition and other school fees. Secondary and post-secondary schools may charge tuition and other school fees in order to improve facilities or to accommodate more students. Section 39, Income from other sources. So government-supportive educational institutions may receive grants, legacies, donations, and gifts for purposes allowed by existing laws. Furthermore, income generated from production activities and from auxiliary enterprises may be retained and used for schools concerned in accordance with rules and regulations jointly issued consistently with pertinent appropriation and budgetary laws by the Ministry of the Budget, the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports, and the Commission on Audit. Funding of private schools. So Section 40, founding of private schools. Private schools may be founded by their capital investment or equity contributions, tuition fees and other school charges, grants, loans, subsidies, passive investment, income, and income from other sources. Section 41, the government assistance. So the government, in recognition of their complementary role in the educational system, may provide aid to the programs of private schools in the form of grants or scholarships or loans from government financial institutions, provided that such program meets certain defined educational requirements and standards and contribute to the attainment of national development goals. Section 42, the tuition and other school fees. Each private school shall determine its rate of tuition and other school fees or charges. The rates and charges adopted by schools pursuant to this provision shall be collectible and their application or use authorized subject to rules and regulation promulgated by the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports. Section 43, income from other sources. Any private school duly recognized by the government may receive any grant and legacy, donation, gift, bequest, or devised from any individual, institution, corporation, foundation, trust, or philanthropic organization, or research institution or organization as may be authorized by law. Furthermore, private schools are authorized to engage in any auxiliary enterprise to generate income primarily to finance their educational operation and or to reduce the need to increase students' fees. Section 44, the institutional funds. The proceeds from tuition fees and other school charges as well as other income of schools shall be treated as institutional funds. School may pool their institutional funds in whole or in part under joint management for the purpose of generating additional financial resources. C. The incentives to education. So Section 45, the declaration of policy. It is the policy of the state in the pursuit of its national education development goals to provide an incentive program to encourage the participation of the community in the development of the educational sector. So Section 46, relating to school property. Real property such as lands, buildings, and other improvements thereon used actually, directly, and exclusively for educational purposes shall be subject to the real property tax based on an assessment of 15% of the market value of such property. Section 47, relating to gifts of the ordination to schools. So all gifts or donation in favor of any school, college, or university recognized by the government shall not be subject to tax, provided that such gifts or donation shall be for improvement of classrooms and laboratory or library facilities and shall not inure to the benefit of any officer, director, official, or owner or owners of the school, or paid out as salary, adjustments of allowance of any form or nature whatsoever, except in support of faculty and professorial chairs. Section 48, the relating to earnings from established scholarship funds. So all earnings from the investment of any duly established scholarship fund or any school recognized by the government constituted from gifts to the school and or from contribution or other resources assigned to said fund by the school. If said earnings are actually used to fund additional scholarship grants to financially deserving students shall be exempt from tax until the scholarship fund is fully liquidated, when the outstanding balance thereof shall be subject to tax. Section 49, the School Dispersal Program. All gains realized from the sale, disposition, or transfer of property, real or personal, or any duly established private school, college, or university in pursuance of a school dispersal program of the government or the educational institution as approved by the government shall be considered exempt from tax if the total proceeds of the sale are reinvested in a new or existing duly established school, college, or university located in the dispersal site within 1 year from the date of such sale, transfer, or disposition. Otherwise, all taxes due on the gains realized from the transaction shall immediately become due and payable. So Section 50, the conversion to educational fund. So conversion to educational foundations. An educational institution may convert itself into a non-stock, non-profit educational foundation in accordance with the implementing rules to be issued jointly by the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports and the Ministry of Finance. So in the case of stock corporation, if for any reason its corporate existence as an educational institution ceases and is not renewed, all its net assets after liquidation of the liabilities and other obligation may be conveyed and transferred to any non-profit educational institution or successor non-profit educational institution, or to be distributed by a court to another organization to be used in such manner as in the judgment of said court will best accomplish the general purposes for which the dissolved organization was organized, or to the state. So D, the assistant to students. So Section 51, government assistance to students. So the government shall provide financial assistance to financially disadvantaged and deserving students. Such assistance may be in the form of state scholarships, grants and aid, assistance from the Educational Loan Fund, or subsidized tuition rate in state colleges and universities. All the above and similar assistance programs shall provide for reserved quotas for financially needed but academically qualified students from the national cultural communities. Section 52, grants of scholarship pursuant to the existing laws. So educational institutions shall be encouraged to grant scholarships to students pursuant to the provisions of existing laws and such scholarship measures as may hereafter be provided by the law. So Section 53, the assistance from the private sector. So the private sector, especially educational institution, business and industry, shall be encouraged to grant financial assistance to students, especially those undertaking research in the field of science and technology or in such project as may be necessary within the context of national development. So, we're now in the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports. Chapter 1, the General Provisions. Section 54, the Declaration of Policy. The administration of the education system and pursuant to the provision of the Constitution, the supervision and regulations of the educational institutions are hereby vested in the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports without prejudice the provisions of the charter of any state college and university. Section 55, the Organization. The ministry shall be headed by the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports, who shall be assisted by one or more deputy minister. The organization of the ministry shall consist of the ministry proper, composed of the immediate office of the minister and the services of the ministry, the Board of Higher Education, which is hereby established, the Bureau of Elementary Education, the Bureau of Secondary Education, the Bureau of Higher Education, the Bureau of Technical and Vocational Education, and the Bureau of Continuing Education, which are hereby established. Regional offices and field offices, the National Scholarship Center, and such other agencies as are now or may be established pursuant to law, and the cultural agencies, namely the National Library, the National Historical Institute, the National Museum, and the Institute of National Language. Such of the above offices as are created or authorized to be established under this provision shall be organized and staffed and shall function, subject to the approval of the President upon recommendation of the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports in consultation with the Presidential Commission and Reorganization. So, Section 56, the National Board of Education is hereby abolished, and its appropriations, personnel, records, and equipment are hereby transferred to the Office of the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports. Section 57, Functions and Power of the Ministry. The Ministry shall formulate general education objectives and policies and adopt long-range educational plans, plan, develop, and implement programs and projects in education and culture, promulgate rules and regulations necessary for the administration, supervision, and regulation of the educational system in accordance with declared policy, set up general objectives for the school system, coordinate the activities and functions of the school system and the various cultural agencies under it, coordinate and work with agencies concerned with the educational and cultural development of the national cultural communities, and recommend and study legislation proposed for adoption. Section 58, report to the Batasang Pambansa. So the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports shall make an annual report to the Batasang Pambansa on the implementation of the National Basic Education Plan. So the current condition of the education sector, the effectiveness of the education programs, and the adequacy or deficiency of the appropriations and status of expenditures, the impact of education on the different regions, the growth of enrollment, the adequacy of academic facilities, the concentration of low-income groups, or the supply of teaching and non-teaching personnel, with such comments and appropriate recommendation 30 days before the opening of its regular session. So, Chapter 2, the Board of Higher Education. Section 59, Declaration of Policy. So, higher education will be geared towards the provision of better quality education, the development of middle and high-level manpower, and the intensification of research and extension services. So, the main thrust of higher education is to achieve equity, efficiency, and high quality in the institutions of higher learning, both public and private, so that together they will provide a complete set of program offerings that meet both national and regional development needs. So, Section 60, Organization of the Board of Higher Education. So, the Board of Higher Education is reconstituted as an advisory body of the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports. The board shall be composed of a Deputy Minister of Education, Culture, and Sport designated as chairman, and 4 other members to be appointed by the President of the Philippines upon nomination by the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports for a term of 4 years. The 4 members shall have distinguished themselves in the field of higher education and development, either in the public or private sector. So, in the initial appointment of the non-ex officio members, the first appointee shall serve for a term of 4 years, the second for a term of 3 years, the third for a term of 2 years, and the fourth for a term of 1 year. So, the director of the Bureau of Higher Education shall participate in the deliberation of the board, but without the right to vote. So, the Bureau of Higher Education shall provide the board with the necessary technical and staff support, provided that the board may create technical panels of experts in the various disciplines as the needs arises. So, Section 61, the function of the Board of Higher Education. The board shall first, make policy recommendation regarding the planning and management of the integrated system of higher education and the continuing evaluation thereof. Second, recommend to the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports steps to improve the governance of the various components of the higher education system at national and regional levels. Third, assess the Minister of Education, culture and sports, and making recommendation relative to the generation of resources and their allocation for higher education. So we are now in the chapter 3, the bureaus. So section 62, the Bureau of Elementary Education. The bureau shall perform the following functions. First, conduct studies and formulate, develop, and evaluate programs and educational standards for elementary education. Second, undertake studies necessary for the preparation of prototype, curricular design, instructional materials, and teacher training programs for elementary education. And third, formulate guidelines to improve the elementary school physical plants and equipment and general management of these schools. Section 3, the Bureau of Secondary Education. The Bureau shall perform the following functions. First, conduct studies and formulate, develop, and evaluate programs and educational standards for secondary education. Second, develop curricular designs, prepare instructional materials, and prepare and evaluate programs to upgrade the quality of the teaching and non-teaching staff at the secondary level. Third, formulate guidelines to improve the secondary school physical plants and equipment and general management of these schools. So section 64, the Bureau of Technical Mid-Vocational Education. So the Bureau shall perform the following. First, collaborate with other agencies in the formulation of manpower plans. Second, conduct studies, formulate, develop, and evaluate post-secondary vocational technical programs and recommend educational standards for these programs. Third, develop curricular designs and prepare instructional materials, prepare and evaluate programs to upgrade the quality of teaching and non-teaching staff, and formulate guidelines to improve the physical plant and equipment of post-secondary vocational technical schools. The section 65, the Bureau of Higher Education. So the Bureau of Higher Education shall perform the following functions. First, develop, formulate, and evaluate programs, project, and educational standard for a higher education. Then, provide staff assistance to the Board of Higher Education in its policy formulation and advisory functions. Third, provide technical assistance to encourage institutional development programs and projects. Fourth, compile, analyze, and evaluate data on higher education. And 5, perform other functions provided by the law. Next is Section 66, Bureau of Continuing Education. It's the main implementing arm of the non-formal education programs of the ministry. The Bureau shall provide learning programs or activities that shall serve as a means of meeting the learning needs of those unable to avail themselves of the educational services and programs of formal education. Then, provide opportunities for the acquisition of skills necessary to enhance and ensure continuing employability, efficiency, productivity, and competitiveness in the labor market. Third, serve as a means for expanding access to educational opportunities to citizens of varied interests, demographic characteristics, and socioeconomic origins or status. Chapter 2, Administrative Provision. So in Section 70, Rule-Making Authority, the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports, charged with the administration and enforcement of this Act, shall promulgate the necessary implementing rules and regulation. Section 71, the Separability Provision. Any part or provision of this Act which may be held invalid or unconstitutional shall not affect its remaining parts or provision. Section 72, the Repealing Clause. All laws or parts thereof inconsistent with any provision of this Act shall be deemed repealed or modified as the case may be. And then lastly, Section 73, the effectivity. So this Act shall take effect upon its approval. So approved September 11, 1982. So that's all, guys. Once again, I am Marjorie C. Ayaw, and thank you.